I don't care. The kids are having fun.
Call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Approval of the minutes of April 12th. Any comments?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 12th as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4, unfinished business, none. Item 5A, new business. Dylan Block, Wellness Chiropractor, W307 and 1497 Gulf Road, Suite 102, reconsideration, possible action on a request for approval of a site plan, plan of operation, and sign for operation within the Ridge Point Center facility located at W307 and 1497 Gulf Road. Tim?
All right, this facility is in the office building that's directly across the street from the Highway Department facilities on the south side of Gulf Road. I put that up there. They're going to be on the east side of the building in the lower level. The parking that they'll be able to use is in this parking lot down here. As stated in my report, the anticipation would be that they would only have, clients come in for short periods of time and then leave, and so there wouldn't be a need for having substantial parking at any one time there. The use of the facility is for a chiropractic wellness and a wellness office. It meets the B1 zoning, which is up there. Their hours of operation are Monday and Wednesday 9 to 12, and Tuesday and Thursday 2 to 6, which is comparable to other uses in that building. The only employee is the doctor and one other part-time employee. They don't plan to change anything on the exterior as far as the site goes, so the site plan is as it is today. They have requested a sign. And so that's the site and the parking that they're going to use. There is a dumpster in the corner there that they would be able to use. Sorry, forgot to flip this, but they're proposing a sign that says Wellnest Chiropractic. We realized during this process that this particular development has a sign guidelines that were put together by the developer at the time that it was, oops, oh, he's gonna play with it a little bit. And so that those guidelines indicate that the lettering on those signs have to be individual letters that are attached to the building. Though I come to find out when oops. Yeah, so I come to find out that there are a couple of places that actually have flat letters up there right against the wall, like acrylic letters that are up against the wall. And so I've indicated that to the owner. They have talked to their sign people, but I have not received a mock-up back yet on that particular issue. I don't necessarily have a problem with the sign as it is. It's just whether we want those letters that they're like 2 inches from the wall. They stick out from the wall. But there's another place on the north end that has like this part of it. On the other place was just flat letters against the wall. If there would be a change if they wanted to do that, which we could approve, we'd have to probably get the owner of the development to make that application on that. So, and these folks did decline to do that for now. So, okay. So I am recommending, subject to any of your comments, I recommend approval of the site plan and plan of operation. And then we'd have to we can talk about the sign, either if you want that to come back or to have staff approve it once it meets those sign guidelines.
Are we responsible enforcing the sign guidelines? Or is that the developer, the landlord would?
I think we are part of it. We approved it, so we incorporated that into the development
Agreement.
as a condition. So for all the other ones, we've made approvals of the sign and made sure that they met those requirements.
Motion to approve the site plan and plan of operation for Wellness Chiropractic, and approval of the sign by staff when the staff gets the information.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5B, Chip Turner, N30W29417 Hillcrest Drive, owner by Tim Rigsby, agent, rate consideration, possible action on a request for an increase in height for installation of a cupola on the house at N30W29417 Hillcrest Drive.
Okay, I have up on the screen the location. It's this property right here on Hillcrest. And then I'll go to the plans, which you had in your packet. So they are doing some remodeling of the house, and as part of the remodeling, they would like to put a cupola. It's about a 5 foot by 5 foot, maybe a little bit bigger than that, cupola on top of the house. Our maximum height is 45 feet to the tip, or to the very ridge, I'm sorry. Chimneys do not count, but cupolas, we have counted those in the past. They are proposing, the plans initially had shown 8 feet, but for every foot over, and that would make them, I think that would have went up above 48 feet, and for every foot above 45, they have to increase their side setbacks, side yard offsets by a foot. And so, because there's a 14-foot side yard set offset on each side, that's county. But to get up that high, they would need to reduce that to 7 feet, and the architect agreed to do that, to reduce it to 7 feet.
Reduce the side yard.
Reduce the height of the cupola from 8 to 7.
Okay.
To reduce, I'm sorry, reduce the cupola. And this came from the county. The county sent that to us. This did not come through us, but the county, we need to get a recommendation back to the county, as well as our building inspector would have caught it when it would have come in, but it hasn't been in for a building permit yet, I don't think. I'm not aware of that.
So it's 2.5 feet above, 2.7 feet above the height limit?
About 2.7 feet.
I'm just curious, I know this isn't a requirement, did we ask were any of the neighbors asked or notified of this?
Not to my knowledge. We do not do that for this, so. I don't know if the owner talked to the neighbors or not.
Would you like me to answer any questions?
I don't know
Not right now, I think we'll just keep discussing for a minute. Thanks.
We have had these kinds of requests in the past, and typically we don't have issues with raising height on certain things. I mean, depending on where it's located and if, usually we don't have any, to go up a little bit higher. Hasn't been a problem in the past. We don't get that many requests because we tell them 45 feet is the peak, and we don't want to have anybody go up. But once again, if they increase their side yard, we do allow some homes to go up higher. And we have some out there, there's no doubt about that.
So this is not a tear down and rebuild. This is a remodel of the house that's on the property now?
My understanding from Mr. Rigsby is that it's a remodel
Okay.
on that.
That's what I was struggling with too. I was looking at the property, just when you're looking down the driveway compared to I guess that rendering, that's so significantly different. I guess maybe from my
Me too.
view, I don't know, but it looks much larger and different.
I guess we could,
Why don't you come up to the mic? We'll be asking you questions, apparently. Introduce yourself, but I think we know who you are. Record?
Good evening. My name's Tim Rigsby. I'm the owner of Rigsby Group. We're the builder for this project, working with Chip Turner.
I guess I can
Give an
go.
overview?
The first question, did you notify any of the neighbors? I know it's not a requirement, but usually it's, you know, good common
I
practice.
have not notified any of the neighbors. I did get a call today from one of the neighbors, Tom Kranich, I think, is
Okay.
to the east of him. Just asked me a few questions. But no, we got involved. He had the renderings drawn by a friend architect and brought them to us to say, hey, this is what I want to emulate or copy onto my home. And so we went through and that's what we've done. It's an exterior remodel. There's an extension of the front walkway, really a covered walkway with a tower. And then the back is a complete redo of the existing deck with a new covered deck and then a side screen porch off of that. We went through many renditions with this design with the county because of setbacks and such, so we've got it confined to the limitations that we had. And then once we went through that with Ben Greenberg from the county, then he said because we had a cupola, then we came back to the town for that approval. Once this is done per Ben, we're good to go with zoning, and then we'd proceed with building permit.
Are the current side yard setback 14 feet?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we're within that.
Those are the required setbacks, but they are set back further than that
Well, that was my question.
on both sides.
Well,
How
on
far
the-
is the house now from the side yard? What's the current side yard?
Yeah, I was,
The current side where the house is at an odd spot. On the bottom drawing here, there's a lone window on the first floor. That right there is about 20 feet from the side yard, because that screen porch that is coming this way to the right of the fireplace chimney, that's coming out 5 feet past that, so it's only 10 feet from the house. But that comes to the 14-foot setback.
I'm kind of a
Sorry.
simple guy. Is the house, how far from the house as it exists today is the property line on the side yard?
On the east side, it's 20 feet,
On the 20 feet? What will it be after?
14 feet.
So you are changing the side yard setbacks?
Well, I'm sorry, I was saying, I am changing it, but I was staying within what I was told of the 14 feet, is what I was staying within.
And what would the side yard setback be to give them the extra 2.7 feet, Tim?
well, what I saw on the survey that they provide is that the closest any of part of the house is on the
East side,
east side is 17 feet, and on the west side, it's 17.7 feet.
How far is the retaining wall on the east side there from the property line?
I don't, that's not measured on here, I don't know. Is that,
it
that's
varies.
an existing retaining wall?
Yes, yeah,
And are the existing retaining walls going to stay there, or are they going to be
yeah,
rebuilt?
we're not changing any of that,
And is the
on
cupola-
both sides.
And is the cupola a decorative cupola, or is it going to be like a lookout, or be able to?
Totally decorative on top of the main house.
So it's not like, even like a skylight or anything, it just,
I don't, no, we're not even
It's just
lighting
going to sit
it.
on the roof, like
Just
just
sitting on the
decorative?
roof.
so inside the house, you won't see it, it's only visible from the outside
Right,
of the house.
right.
So Tim, how far,
So I do want to clarify, now that I'm seeing that, I'm understanding what he's saying is that part of the new structure is going to go to the line on the east side to 14 feet.
Yes.
Then he doesn't have the side yard
Then
setback.
he
to
does not
support.
have the setback to support to go up any more than the 45 feet that we require.
okay, so he
So I
doesn't,
missed that, I apologize, that,
If he was at 17 feet, then the 3 feet of extra side yard setback would allow for a 3-foot higher cupola. But he's at 14, so we can't.
we can't
Go above
do
45.
it unless they move that part, the east side, if they move it back to match
Or
the
we
existing house.
Just the height,
Correct.
Yeah.
yeah. I think at this point, we'd rather adjust the height.
Of the
than-
cupola,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they could, you could adjust it to match, to go to, well,
Basically, the height of the chimney, right?
so it gets up to 45 feet, and let's see if I,
What's the, because we count the wind vane. You have a wind vane?
Right, that's really what's up there.
Yeah, so if you took the wind vane off, what would be the height of the real construction of the height?
I don't have it in front of me. Sorry.
so the whole, up to the top of that is 47.77 feet, but the wind vane, I don't know how much that really is.
I'm sure that's at least 2.5 feet.
Yeah, my wind vane's 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So it should-
Drawings are small here, so
I would write you a big set.
that is, so just to this point, just this dimension right here, I'll zoom in a little bit here. This dimension is 3 feet 6 inches, and so I don't know what it is up to this point.
And we don't know what the height of the building is without the cupola.
What's the current height of the house?
I think it's 40 feet is what it is right now. Because I ended up with 47.77 feet with the with the 7-foot increase. So it's probably 40.77 feet to the ridge right now. So he could have a 4.3
4.23 foot high cupola.
cupola, yeah.
And that's to the.
So whatever the highest point is.
Oh, highest point. of
The
it,
highest
okay.
point, yep.
Yeah.
So if you're inclined to approve to that point.
We don't have to approve it to 45 feet.
I don't want to necessarily
Oh, I
go
guess we
with
just,
45.
he just
You
has to.
just basically
he
say
has
you
to-
can't go above 45 feet.
45
so
feet is the
Cut the
max, yeah.
cupola down a couple feet, and you're good.
Plus take off the wind vane.
Well,
Otherwise-
take off the windmill. Or the-
Otherwise, I'd have to come in from the side, correct, on the east side?
Yeah, you'd have to cut off part of the deck,
A foot was it a foot for a foot?
foot for a foot.
Okay.
So you'd have to go 3 feet of the deck to
Yeah,
put in
we
that
can.
cupola.
You may be just stuck with the wind vane.
Might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the least of our worries, is that part. Okay, so 45 is the max,
Unless you increase the side yard setback
right,
beyond the 14 feet it
I
currently
don't
would
want to
be.
do that.
Yeah, I don't see that
So,
either.
okay,
Looks like a beautiful house.
So who enforces this? Is this county, town?
Our building inspector.
Our building inspector would enforce, I believe, the height on that when it comes in.
And Ben Greenberg's the person from the county who's working on this? Because really my concern is not so much with the project per se. I mean, they're beautiful plans, and I'm sure it's gonna be a beautiful project, but my concerns are, as I drive from my house to the town hall, there's a whole lot of construction going on along the lake, along Maple Avenue and along the lake in general. And we had a situation last month with a property along the lake where the county was asleep at the wheel and not doing what they were supposed to do. And this neighbor complaint, or the way that, I just want the rules to be followed on this thing. And I want to make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and that they don't go over the 45 feet and they keep within their setbacks, and everything is enforced to a T. Because I don't want anybody coming back after the fact saying, oops, we screwed up, and we need an exception.
Well, we'll get copies of the plans that you take to the county, and then we'll get stamped copies from what the county approves.
and they already have them, so,
And they should be minus a cupola, so.
or a shorter one.
Or a much shorter one.
Or short.
there or home.
I'll email Dave and Ben after this meeting.
But I want to make sure that Dave and Ben are on top of it.
Yeah.
Sure, well, I'll include them both in the email so that they can respond directly to it.
I
Thank
think
you.
you're right in saying that the county can approve something, and then Dave gets it, and then he gets the zoning permit, and Dave's really the one that enforces, like, some of these setbacks and height restrictions for the county.
County doesn't enforce a thing.
They're not out there enforcing until there's a complaint or a problem, and then they go out there.
Yeah, and
We've had builders and owners who submit a plan to the county and then submit a different set of plan to us. And that's happened in the recent past. And that's why we changed
Yeah.
that's why we changed the rules, that it has to be certified or, say, copied. We get the exact same thing the
Yeah.
county gets.
yeah, I just want to make sure that Dave and the county and everybody's on the same page, and that we don't have a lot of complaints, that everything's being built as presented and everybody approves.
But it really does look like a beautiful home.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank you. No, I'm fine with all that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Wonderful.
All right.
If you decide
Thank
to
you, sir.
cut off the deck to increase, it will have to come back here just so you.
Oh, I'm not. No.
Just in case.
We're chopping at the top.
Item
Thank you.
5C, John and Kathleen Zotke Thomas, W288 N3312 Lakeside Road. Rate consideration and possible action on a certified survey map to combine parcels into one lot at W288 N3312 Lakeside Road.
All right, this is the, we've done this many times. It's a parcel of land that's made up of two portions of an old plat. This is part of Lot 5, I believe. And this is like the west half of Lot 5, and the other part of it is a part of Lot 6. And so there's a line that cuts right through their property. And so I believe that they're gonna take some action to do something on the property, and therefore the county's having them combine those into one lot so we can erase that line in the middle that causes us a lot of problems with setbacks and offsets from that line. So we're kind of cleaning it up. The survey, I did do a review of the survey, and they did make all the corrections that I requested. So the survey that's, I don't have it. Whatever this was stated here, I can get a date on it. April, that's not right. He's got it April 2, but that can't be, because I just got this yesterday.
Well, this is pretty straightforward. We're just
It is,
combining
yeah.
two lots into one.
Yep.
For the benefit of the, and it's one owner with one structure.
You have the wrong address, it's W283.
Oh, okay.
instead of W288.
So there's a couple of things going on with that, okay. I saw him, where he, on this one, this stamp, he's got April's 2, but on the bottom of the survey, the very bottom, he's got 5/2/22, so I think he's got his months. He didn't change over the month, so there's a few things, so you gotta make it subject to a few corrections, so the,
But we should cite to the May 2nd as with corrections.
yeah.
Okay.
And then what, you said there was another
The top,
correction?
The address.
The address,
address on the top,
W283.
W283 and 3312.
Right there, isn't that 283?
It is.
He did fix it, but I think on the agenda,
On
Oh,
our
the agenda.
He
Yes.
read it as 288.
on the plan that you sent back for his signature, it said 288, so he fixed it before.
Oh, okay, okay.
So,
Motion to approve the certified survey map for W283 and 3312 Lakeside Road, with the date of May 2nd, 2022, subject to any technical corrections.
Second.
Yeah, second. Go ahead.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6A, discussion items. Tom Beaudry, 229 Lindale Road LLC, owner by Joel Galbraith Carnahan Architects, rate conceptual review of Lake Country Toy Box condominium garages for storage of vehicles, watercraft, and motorsports.
Come on up.
Come on up.
It's discussion, so do you want him to make a presentation?
Yeah, might as
I don't
well,
have-
because
I
we
don't
don't
have
have a
much to-
memo, so.
Don't have much to say right now.
Introduce
so-
yourself and tell us what you're doing. I want it.
I am Joe Galbraith of Galbraith Carnahan Architects, representing the applicant, Tom Beaudry. Tom couldn't be here. He's in Florida with his family doing a Disney vacation. So, do you need my address for the record?
Yeah, sure, why don't you give it to me?
6404 West North Avenue, Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. So what we have here is a parcel that currently has an existing exotic car dealership called Cassandra's Motorsports. That's the gray building that you see on the parcel map there. There's a it's all one parcel at the moment, and what Tom would like to do is he would like to divide the property into two separate parcels, and on the eastern parcel develop basically a storage condominiums for his clientele. So that would be storage buildings for exotic vehicles and things like that. So self-storage is not really what this is. This is more of a storage condominium where people will purchase these condo units to primarily store their vehicles, but it'll also have an office and a bathroom and a mezzanine. And the idea is that the clientele there will sort of develop community around shared interest in automobiles and different vehicles or high-end RVs. I think the target market is definitely a higher end type of market. It would be a condominium, so it's not for rental type of products. I think probably a total valuation on the whole project around $20 million. So these will be really nicely designed higher end storage buildings. The primary materials. Well, maybe let's go through some of the slides here to just get you familiar with how these things look. So essentially there's a number of buildings. Some of them have 6 units strung together. Some of the buildings maybe only have 2 together, but it's a sloping site, so there's essentially three roadways with groups of buildings that face onto a driveway. So each of the buildings will have a garage door that enters into the storage bay, and then there's sort of a front office area, a restroom, and then a stair that'll connect up to a mezzanine. And that mezzanine will overlook the garage portion, but it'll also have an outdoor area for barbecuing and hanging out, which faces the south direction. Continue on. So here are some elevations, sort of the front elevation. So this would be largely glass overhead doors that would have frosted panels on them, so you're not necessarily seeing in, but there is translucent quality to that. The upper windows would be clear glass that would lead to the balconies, and then the remainder of the building would be an insulated metal panel. And what we're looking at is a particular product that is used oftentimes not necessarily for utilitarian buildings, but more for office buildings. So the panels, we would use probably 2 or 3 different colors of panels, and then there are some translucent panels that are indicated there. So at night, when these are lit, there'll be an interesting effect with some light coming through those panels. Do you want to scroll down? I have some photos of suggested materials. Yeah, so here's some example materials from just some other. Oh, no problem. Other projects you can see. The garage doors, that kind of style with the glass and the translucent panels. The metal panels you can see in square A. Square B is representative of the translucent. We wouldn't do that many translucent panels. It would be more of intermixed into a sort of a staggered pattern. And then the metal style roofing that you can see in the box F there. Maybe let's keep going here. Here's some 3D visuals, so you can see the current Cassandra's dealership there. And then they'd have a shared access drive that would come off of Lindale there. And then it would essentially break off into you'd continue on to Cassandra's parcel, or you would go into this other parcel for the storage garage. Right now there is an access gate that is towards the top of the hill for for entering into the property. Keep scrolling down. Here's just some views of, how those look. There's single slope roof. They open up towards the south, and if you're familiar with that site, it's sloping up from Highway 16, and then it goes down. And there's more of a wetland area, and then it slopes up towards the road there. And then keep going. Yeah, and these are the views from the inner driveways that go in between the various storage units. And there's also, and then there's a little animation that just sort of kind of flies you around the project.
What's the size of the garage door?
I would say it's probably about 12.
It's 10 by 10 right now.
Yeah, 10 by 10, but I could see us going higher in some, because if we had some RV type units, we'd want to have at least 12 to 14 foot doors. So I think there would probably be some variation in those, like where you see where that balcony comes across. I could see some of the units not having the balcony over the door, and then we would just have a taller door for some of the units.
What's the square footage of the actual unit?
30 by 50, so 1,500 square feet. Yeah.
And does the height allow lifts, car lifts, or all?
Yeah, the idea is that there would be a lift in each of the units so that they could,
Car.
yeah.
The 1,500 doesn't include the mezzanine, though.
That's correct. Yeah, so there would be a little more square footage, probably. So they're 30 feet wide, and the mezzanine's probably another 12?
Yeah, about
12.
10 to 12.
Yeah, so whatever that is. 300.
So what is the mezzanine used for?
Just hanging out. It's sort of, an area where you might have some furniture, they might have some drinks up there, and I mean, you can visualize, looking over the mezzanine and people having their friends over and talking about their exotic cars. So I don't have one myself, so I'm just imagining what happens in this scenario. So.
And are those skylights in there?
Those, yeah, correct. Those are skylights, because really the only light is from that south side. So the rest of the building is, it's sort of wrapped in those metal panels. The end units have some translucent ones, but it'd be nice to have the inner units have some daylight.
I'm assuming there'll be an HOA?
I would assume so. He's going to sell these as condominiums, so I would assume they would have to have all of that.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of questions that Tom would have to figure out as he moves this forward.
Which of the town's ordinances have you followed in your design and construction materials?
The town's ordinances, I mean, so we looked at the zoning district, I think it's in an M1. We were looking at some of the, I think we're out of, we're not in compliance on height. I think the height was, for these buildings, was set a bit lower. So we're at about 23 feet at the high point. And then I think metal siding might be an area where metal siding may be prohibited, but we're just going with a more higher end metal siding. So I think those would be areas of variance.
Well, we drafted an ordinance
Okay.
12 or 18 months ago for storage lockers.
Okay.
And I'll admit, as a
Yeah.
conditional use, and we set forth in that ordinance probably a dozen different criteria, things, from landscaping to security to
Sure.
building materials. I'll admit, I'm not 100% sure this is that.
Yeah.
But it's an actual path forward, because if we have to approve something, it's good to know what it is we're trying to approve and what the rules are. So I would strongly recommend you to take a look at that ordinance in particular. and see what, if anything, needed to be tweaked if you were to come in as a conditional use for,
Okay.
kind of a storage, a condo storage facility.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really see that. I was just looking more at the base zoning, and then it
Yeah,
said conditional special use for.
M1 is pretty much whatever fits in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I mean, it's got some rules like building height and things like that. but
Okay.
When the possibility of a storage facility was being discussed on this property with a prior owner,
Okay.
we got nervous that we didn't have any rules for
Sure.
that. So we adopted some about, like I said, a year and a half
Okay.
ago.
That's why I asked the question, because to me,
Yeah.
the conditional use storage unit ordinance would apply here.
Okay.
And it's rather specific.
Okay.
And I guess one question I have, and forgive me, is like the living space piece of this, and, I mean, would that be?
Can't live in them. I mean, that would be a rule. I mean, we'd
Because
probably
there's-
prohibit kitchens, we'd prohibit overnight stays. I mean, we'd probably maybe have hours of operation.
Bathrooms?
Well, that's
Good.
generally okay.
Toilets, not showers.
Okay.
See, that would be, there's be limiting, I mean, I think, I was thinking about this too, talking with Dan, you know, there's a sink and a toilet in each one, so you can have an office, so you can be there, obviously, overnight, but, you know, I would think that people would have electric there for refrigerators, microwaves, so it's probably not too difficult to, you know, have some food there, which
If they're gonna be grilling on the patio, they're
If you're gonna have a
cooked.
party, you're gonna have a little bit of food, so, you know, or do they have a grill out on the balcony or something like that? So it's starting to look like that, except for, you know, if the mezzanine all of a sudden becomes a couple of really nice sofas, and is that the place to crash for people? You know, not literally car crash, I'm talking sleep crash.
No, but it's a slippery slope that, these are,
Yeah.
they don't look like your storage unit or storage condos. These look like living facilities or places to hang out on the weekend.
I don't know if we want them to be living facilities.
No, we don't want
No.
them to be that. That's
We
my
don't want them to
concern.
be businesses either. Each little, I'm a carpenter and I have a wood shop in there, a
Right.
truck, and I live upstairs, and
Right.
we don't want that.
Well, would you be opposed if those were business? And this whole concept of business condos is pretty popular.
Well, that's what's going in on the Highway 18 set
Right,
is
you know.
potential businesses
Potential,
in
is that a
rentals.
bad thing there, necessarily? I mean, the living.
That's not the
living
story
is
we're
out.
being
The
told.
The living isn't allowed in the M1 district, so we could just say you can't live in them.
Yeah.
But to have condos where, I could see these, if he doesn't fill all of these with vehicles, storage of vehicles, do they all of a sudden become someone's business office with a nice garage for their vans? And
Well,
I could see it happening, I guess.
and we had that same discussion on the last development on the south, and it would be, every business would have to come in with a plan of operation to get it approved. And we'd have the opportunity to say, that kind of business results in too much traffic, or there's no adequate parking, or the hours of operation aren't justified given the neighborhood. As a starting point, I think we would probably not want them. And so, we would say it's a storage arrangement, and yeah, you can hang out there all day and have a party by your car, but you can't live there and you can't run a business out of there. And that would be part of the conditional use process, but
I think, I guess what's causing me some hesitation is the fully, there's a second level, and that's, that doesn't strike me as storage as much as it does a place for visitors. I mean, it's like a house.
And I would think and expect whatever association bylaws that there are to have some restrictions in place to protect those individuals that are actual car enthusiasts and aren't interested in having those businesses located next door as
That's a
well.
good point.
Yeah.
true. I mean, that's a good point. You're right, because if, not that you get riffraff, but if you're running a business, you're gonna have a lot more traffic in and out, and
Right.
security becomes an issue.
They're nice looking, I admit that. I mean, I have my concerns with it, but it's a nice looking plan.
From a building inspector point of view, I don't think you could have living quarters open to the same place they would a vehicle or gas line or something like that.
Definitely not.
So our building inspector would be involved in that process. I don't think that's your intention.
There's no intention of living or anything there. I mean, the idea is, I think it's, car enthusiasts and people like to show off their things to their friends, so.
What about floor drains, things like that? When you're talking about car enthusiasts,
Yeah.
I think about heavy work being done,
And
chemicals being dropped.
more of the issue is car washing and the septic, because the soil here really doesn't perk very well, so they're gonna have to do some holding tanks. And so and Tom is aware of this and thinking about this and how they're gonna try and control that a little bit. But I think a lot of, there will be some work. Cassandra's does auto work, so I would hope they would have because a lot of these cars are pretty highly technical, so I think it's more of like car washing type of thing within it. But it could be, there could be someone that's a real gearhead that wants to get into their car. So, some sort of like from a grease separation standpoint, or like.
Oh, just a floor drain, right?
Yeah.
And a lift.
It would
And
definitely
somebody can
have floor
wrench.
drain. It would be definitely a floor drain
Right.
because people, probably do some car washing in there.
Well, and if you were building a classic car from parts and scratch, you'd have all sorts of tools and provisions in there, but I don't know that rebuilding a classic car in a garage is a problem for us.
I'm just saying, so for the potential for release of some
Right,
chemicals.
right.
I would think it would be the same provisions for a auto mechanic shop should be in place to be able to trap those chemicals.
Well, and with an auto mechanic shop right next door, we could probably,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a limiting, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a limiting factor that you can't have a septic, that you have to have multiple
Holding tanks.
holding tanks.
Yeah.
And they have to be cleaned out on a very,
Oh, yeah.
and they're very, it's not.
Yeah, and
an expensive thing to
he's
do.
kind of talked about the idea of trying to meter that in some fashion. So if someone's washing their car a lot, that, because he's going to have to he'll have to have tank cleanouts on a more frequent basis.
Sure.
And so that, someone that's washing their car a lot will get charged appropriately for the extra service that'll need to be taking place there.
It's extremely popular concept. I've seen this in Denver and many other cities. I've actually been in some similar to this idea where you have the car and then the couch upstairs, and the individual maybe has some bourbon or something up by the couch, and they sit and stare at their motorcycles or whatever it is.
Oh,
It's-
they go and watch Packer games, and
Right,
commercials,
right.
they look down.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So you've seen
I have,
them?
yes.
And how is their operation as far as affecting the neighborhood and, is it a quiet operation? Is it?
And when I've been there, it's been quiet, yes. It's not, there isn't a lot of hustle and bustle. Again, I think it's a more high-end.
Bucks game
tailored-
tonight and a party of 30 people, I'm pretty sure
Right,
it's going to be.
then it would be, right, if someone's having a party, yes, but,
Is it, are they really just storing cars there, or are they?
the ones I have been to, it's not just cars, but it's whatever they're collecting, right? It could be whatever they're into, maybe sailboats.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is
Typically
there
set
Mast
in
wouldn't
more
be kinda
urban
cool, but-
settings. They're typically set in more urban settings. And
Correct.
to Tim's point, you can open it up to any collector. So it's not uncommon that they've been specifically placed in an urban setting, one for the wow factor, right? More eyes on what you've got. But then two, also a destination of sorts for those parties that they're mentioning, the hangout sessions. And it really depends on your collector and what they have in there with regards to what are they actually showing off and when, right, to kind of gauge who's coming and going. But it does, in some cases, it has become, depending on what they're storing in there, they may also have a maintenance crew that comes in. So, as we think about this too, right, it's condo, but with some of these higher end items that may be stored in here, we're looking predominantly at vehicles, cars, I know you mentioned RVs, but they could have teams that come in to clean them, to do the adjustments and modifications. And that would be something that we'd need to consider.
Is there a market for this? Does he know? Or is he just guessing at?
He said, with the dealership, he said he has a lot of people asking about it. He's been talking about it, and I think he's seen them in other cities. There's one.
Is there a market here for that? Denver, maybe so. Or I don't know whether other places have it, but
Yeah, you can
Well,
find
you
it, they're
said
mostly
urban.
around, metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
It's big in, you mentioned Denver, there's Chicago, Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's because there's no place in those big cities for anything,
A pole barn.
where do you park your, you can't have a pole barn in the middle of the city, so.
We have a lot of pole barns in town.
We do.
Yeah.
Is there any issue with like light and neighbors? If there are some of the
It
panels on
faces
the
16
sides?
and there's nobody on the south side of the highway.
Right.
so
Okay, so no, okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Lindell Farms is above them, but
Mm-hmm.
there's one house there and that's a business otherwise.
It doesn't sound like there'll be a lot of noise there, and so that's not an issue.
And we'll have a new light ordinance before this gets adopted. So-
What's that?
So we'll have a new light ordinance before this gets built, so we'll have some rules to please follow.
Highway 16 will be enough noise to buffer the noise.
No, I'm thinking more with the side panels. I mean, I couldn't really tell how,
Yeah, and that's not meant to be really brightly lit or anything. It's if the lights are on inside, it kind of comes through in a more translucent fashion, so there's, and we're 100 feet off the property line on the east side and the north side.
What's
And
east
then-
of that property, Tim?
It's a farm.
Is it a farm?
Nothing.
It's just
There's something there.
There's something there.
Farmland.
Farmland.
It's a flat earth.
Well, it might be wetlands. If it's wetlands, then it'll never be anything.
That's Village of Pewaukee anyways.
Right, right.
Oh, city?
City
Is
of
that city?
Pewaukee, so we don't care.
Remember where the go-kart track was?
Well, that's before my time. What's the next step? Because this is discussion only.
Yeah, so what Tom is looking for here is this, are you receptive to this idea of exploring this further? Is this something that is workable? We have Chris Jackson, who's a civil engineer, who's going to help us, develop the site, do the stormwater, do all that. Do we want to keep going down this path? Is this, or is this a hard no, we're done, this was never going to happen type of situation? So that's what it sounds like there's just concerns about the ownership, structure, and use. The design, not an issue.
Well, again,
technically-
we've got an ordinance, and
Yeah.
and I think if you were to come back with a conditional use permit request and a set of plans that basically complied with the ordinance, then I think we could have a real substantive discussion. I do think from tonight's, it is hours of operation and uses.
Okay.
We don't want unfettered hours of operation and uses. There's one road in and out, and I get it, it's a county highway next to a state highway, so it can take a lot of traffic in one sense, but, that, it also comes to a four-way stop where I'm sure all of us have been stuck at times too. So,
Yeah.
So traffic will be a concern if it was a high-use type of property. I could see 47 condos as not exactly driving more than 10 cars a day.
Yeah.
Unless there was an event, like we're having an auto show today, everybody comes out and looks at the autos for the auto show and their own garages,
Right.
And those types of events can be managed, and we usually require notice or a permit from the town for something like that. But, yeah, I think if you take a look at the ordinance for building materials, because I do think the steel and the metal might be an issue. Not sure we wouldn't find a way to accommodate it if we liked it, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's trying to be more, modern and sleek like the vehicles, so that's kind of where the metal is coming from. But if there's some allowance for, leeway on that where we don't necessarily have to strictly.
yeah, I mean, for example, and I don't think it would work with these plans, we, I think, require the outer two rows to have their doors on the inside so that you don't see the doors when you're driving around the perimeter. Obviously, your plan is, absolutely, we want the doors facing south. So that's going to be, that's a technical issue. I actually like the way it looks and think you want it looking south, and
Yeah.
so I'm not sure we have to figure some things out there.
Sure.
But that's where some of the pitfalls will be, when we have
Okay.
to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah,
I don't
they-
think-
They face the south.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's conceptually opposed to the
Okay.
idea, so.
We're cautiously encouraging you.
Okay, yeah, and that's, I understand, that's all you can do at this point, so.
Kevin, is everybody, would everybody agree that we should look at this as a self-storage unit, conditional use, or just?
It sure seems like it.
I kind of
It
feel
sure
like there's
s-
a little bit of a hybrid there, because
Yeah.
we did bring up
It's in between.
you're looking at marketing this for mechanical use, or mechanical storage, cars, motorcycles, RVs, right? For those crews that come in, right, and to the points that have been raised before about what goes down in that drain, you know, is it just storage, or are we also having to look at some of those components that may go into?
But are you saying, if it comes in as a storage facility at CUP, we know what the rules are because we wrote them last year. If it comes in as just a
But
conditional,
Storage is so different. I mean, if we go strict by the rules, storage just means you store and you don't do anything else there.
right,
It
It's very
sounds
limiting.
we
Sounds like a
could talk
business
about
condo.
Other things
Yeah.
that might go on.
yeah.
Well, and frankly, in storage, I don't think normally would have a drain that could have chemicals going down it. You know, it's, I mean, storage would be a concrete floor
No,
or.
they would have drawers, they would have,
But I-
Yeah.
If it's commercial,
Fogger has a holding tank, so. they
Yeah.
can use
yeah.
it.
But I think there's some sensitivity to that, you know, depending on what they're actually going to allow, right? So that,
well, the fact that it's all gotta be captured and put in a tank and then hauled off-site probably helps us on that issue.
And there's, I know there's gonna be more than one, there's gonna be several
Oh, yeah.
storage tanks.
Yeah, but at least they're not putting it into a septic that can then leach into the,
No,
So-
no.
Is storage limiting from a taxation value, or do we even care
no,
about that?
if they're selling for 500,000 a piece or something,
Okay.
we'll tax them at what they're worth.
Okay.
But I think,
Or
I do,
more.
Right.
to your point, Tim, if we treat it as a storage facility, CUP, we wrote a lot of things in there that don't make sense here.
Right.
And I don't
It's not-
wanna then
it's not
alleviate,
storage.
you know, say,
It's not storage,
We-
really.
I would expect you, together with the applicant, to tell us what code, or where it fits in our guide.
Doesn't fit anywhere.
That's why we're here.
find a place for it.
Storage with an
We
HOA.
got the storage, the conditions for self-storage facilities, and we got M1, which is a pretty broad.
Well, but M1 has a provision that says any other business use that's not incompatible with the neighborhood.
Right.
And so then we just write the rules on the fly. I mean, not my favorite way of doing things, but
We've done it.
I guess one question I have is, do we have any obligations to the town of Merton or the town of Lisbon or the city of Pewaukee because of the proximity to those? I mean, but I don't know, I guess this is just my inclination, I'm looking at these houses that are
They're all
in the
over.
town of Merton. I mean, I know they're a little distance, but it just seems like
Oh, they're,
if I was living there, I would wanna potentially have some sort of
That's fair.
input because they share a road.
There's a big,
It's a
Yeah.
huge
it's a
hill.
huge hill.
They can't see it.
Can't-
But,
I know-
but you're right, a road access or whatever.
I'm just
sure.
saying, I just
Yeah.
don't know if
Yeah.
it seems like.
There's
that
only
would
that
be-
one house in the triangle that had concerns about lighting a couple times ago.
Yeah.
the conditional use we would, send out mailings for,
Sure.
within 500 feet of anybody.
Would we send it to Martin?
Yeah, we still send them.
Okay.
Mhm.
It just, I just feel like if it was happening to us, we'd wanna know. I mean, if it was happening to our town, that we,
City of Pewaukee.
Do you have any examples of condos similar to this in any of the metro Milwaukee area?
There's one in Oconomowoc. The level of design is not, it looks kind of like a typical, it's a storage condominium where it has a big high garage bay and a door, and it just has a big gable.
I don't even
So that
think
was-
those are heated though, are they?
It's more geared for cars. So
Are those even heated?
I believe they are. Yeah, and they have a bathroom in them. So they have the same basic amenities in terms of a like an office and a bathroom, and they have a little bit of a storage loft because that's what Tom had seen those and he toured those and he said, well, I want to do something like this but nicer type of situation. So, but they're in Oconomowoc.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think Dan Marks did those maybe or something, didn't he? Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it
I
was
think
Dan
there's,
Marks.
I know there's something similar, I believe, in Lake Mills that I've been in, but they're more general purpose in nature. You know,
Yeah.
they're more of a shotgun, you're more of a rifle. With what you're proposing, it seems, for a car enthusiast, those are more general in nature.
Yeah.
Where a small business can come in, and to Ron's example, with a carpenter coming in, being able to park the work truck and have mezzanine and office space with a restroom.
Yeah, we were very nervous about that on the ones down on Highway 18. Particularly, 5, 6 big trucks going out at the same time every morning, every day. Again, we had the advantage that was kind of Highway 18 in the middle of sort of nowhere, next to
In fact,
we
he agreed to
electrics and
put in electronic locks
locks
on
that-
each unit that would,
prevented night access.
yeah,
and, you
they'd
know.
shut off at 11 and wouldn't start again till 4.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because we had, one of the requirements was, you know, being, not only have a gate, but being fully fenced in, secure. And
Right.
sometimes on a property, it's difficult to put a fence all the way around the property. So the solution in that case was time locks. That basically said you can't come in, you know, other than during hours of, approved hours of operation. So,
One other thing I was just thinking about is, I guess you always want this to be successful, obviously, and so what happens if we don't get the exotic cars in there? And they are, I mean, are we gonna, 2, 3, 5 years from now, is he gonna come back and say, well, I need another use for it, you know? And I know you can't plan everything, but these kind of lend themselves to say, well, okay, if there's not enough exotic cars and there's not a market for it, what are we left with? Because then we're kind of stuck with a building, he's stuck with a building, but I mean, he'll be asking us to allow other things to go in there.
But if he splits, we don't even know if he's gonna develop, right? He could just sell it off.
If he,
If he splits the parcel off, we don't even know if he'll be the end user, developer on this.
right, yeah, but whoever is though, I mean, if it's not him, if they build these and the exotic cars go away,
Well, I think it'd be broader than that. Like Nicole was saying, I think you're gonna have people with boats. If they're
So then we'd
50
have to
feet
think
long, you're gonna
broader.
have-
hey, you're gonna have RVs, you're
Right.
gonna have,
There's plenty of boats around here, so.
and the only reason they wouldn't sell is because they're overpriced. You lower them low enough, I'll buy one.
Yeah, that's just it.
or turn them into rentals.
get away, huh?
Or turn them into rentals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so,
Right.
Get in on the ground floor right now, Ron. Give him a price.
I like the end unit on the.
Angel investor, there we go.
I'll give you 100.
Yeah.
It's a $20 million project, I don't think it's doing it.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I guess I would take a look at the ordinance that we
Sure, yeah.
drafted, but don't necessarily view that as, talk to Tim.
Okay.
After you've given this more thought.
Yeah.
I do think a quasi-permitted use as something not inconsistent with the neighborhood, but with lots
Okay.
of rules, might be,
We'll probably follow this somewhat similar if we do it as an M1 or as a conditional use, I think.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the process.
We're
will-
gonna have a lot of
More-
conditions
We
on
might
it
take out a
either
few
way.
things, but I think the
Sure.
things that we thought about in putting that together, we
Mm-hmm.
definitely thought that they made good sense and they're important to the town.
Okay, so the approach would be, like the conditional use type process with all the, whatever we'd be submitting?
Not sure yet,
Okay,
not sure yet. I mean,
Is this 100% town, or is the county involved in all of this?
It's 100% town.
There is a little bit of county jurisdiction.
way on the
in
bottom, I think, isn't it?
southeast. I don't think, they might look at it since they're not building on it and say it's the town's responsibility, but, right down, I think, here.
Because of the,
Come up here.
because of 16, where would the county be?
Wetland down?
There's some, I think there's
Wetland.
some
so there's some,
shoreline.
yep,
Yeah.
Right there.
there,
Okay,
So it's got that,
but you're not building on it,
no,
so
Yeah.
they won't care.
no,
Typically,
no, high groundwater there. You don't want to build there.
You're not with good cars.
Don't poke a hole there.
I will say that, you know, Mr. Beaudry has cleaned up that property and it's looked good. He's cleaned up this particular side of it. He's still working on it, but I mean, it's looked so
no,
much
it's night
better
and
than
day
it
from
has
what-
in the
yeah.
last 25 years.
Yeah.
And he is proposing an addition too, and I don't know if you guys are gonna, if they're gonna come back together with that, or if that's something.
yeah, I don't know procedurally, I mean, so he wants to split the parcels and the auto condos, that's the big project, but then he also has his eye on doing an addition for the dealership, so I don't know how you want to take those as one big thing, it seems like they should be
Just the
separate,
condos around the meet.
so,
Point is, he's putting more money into this, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
yeah. So just follow up with Tim kind of offline about
Yeah,
some
we'll-
logical next steps
I
and,
think we'll sit down and meet with you guys and
Yeah.
kind of discuss the best ways to move forward.
okay, that sounds good.
Very good.
All right, thanks for your time. Go Bucks.
Procedural question. We did
They
no
weren't
action.
doing well. Did you? It was 30 to 12
Motion
when I came in here.
You cannot have a motion
We
to
were losing.
deny what
Sorry.
you, by, under Robert's Rules of Order. So you can make a motion to approve, and then everybody vote against it, so it actually fails. But, or we could just not.
I thought we just decided there was no action to take because he didn't meet the code requirements. We couldn't vote on it. Because there wasn't adequate setback. Without adequate setback, we couldn't
Oh, I thought
We
he was
could-
looking for a variance, like an exception.
no, he wanted the extra height, but he can only get the extra height under the ordinance if
Because
there's
of
extra,
width,
yeah,
yeah,
if there's extra setback, and he's not willing to give the
Oh,
setback,
okay,
so
he
we
doesn't even
can't,
qualify.
he doesn't
No.
qualify.
Great.
So there's nothing to vote on.
Then we're done.
Item 7, announcement and planning items. Next meeting is June 7th, 2022. I think we will have the town attorney here for that meeting.
No, it'll be the
It'll be
town board.
town board
So we're
meeting.
gonna ask the plan commissioners to come to that meeting if they can.
Which
Okay.
is the following Tuesday.
So it'd be the 14th.
It'll be-
I have to check. I think we canceled one of the meetings. I just don't remember which one. I think we canceled the first meeting.
Which is the day after Memorial Day.
Is now an okay time to request a presentation from Sewerpeck and the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District just on, Sewerpeck just on the lake? I think we've mentioned it a couple of years ago or, and every so often, and then, I know we can't discuss it, but just I'm asking, and maybe it's shot down after the request, and then Lake Pewaukee District, just if, what the impact would be adding 200 plus homes to the sewer.
Well, I think we have to see if the meeting moves forward and gets approved. I mean,
Okay.
Right now, we're just writing the ordinance itself. We're not
Okay.
even doing the rezone. Once they come forward with the rezone, then we'll look at the water studies and that. Right now, we're just trying to add it as a text into our code so that they have something to rezone to. Once it's there, then they can rezone. We'll look at sewer pack, we'll look at all the other stuff.
Okay.
that's required. But, I mean.
And the Sewerpeck request is beyond just whatever's going on down in the south. It's more just a presentation on on the overall lake. Yes,
I think that'd be better suited after.
sure. Thank you.
Item 8,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.